Luckily, my wife had sent me a message. She's like, you guys are well trained, so go do what you're gonna do and we'll be fine.
Rough Rider, we thought people weren't gonna come back. This one was like, we really might not get people coming back.
And I can remember somebody specifically said, well, we'll see you in a couple days, Smalls. And he just kind of chuckled. He said, or you won't. And that was that. And I was like, he's wrong. He's not wrong. Like I was trying to avoid, somebody saying it, but that was that.
This was a highly classified mission with very few people in Washington knowing the timing or nature of this plan.
Most people who watched the strike on Iran with Operation Midnight Hammer assume it would only be stealth aircraft like the F-22 and F-35, jets built to slip past modern air defenses. A fourth-generation F-16 amongst the leading edge was not what anyone pictured, but the Block 50 Viper brings one thing to the fight that no one else in the Air Force can.
The HARM's the only weapon that we have that can affect a lot of these surface-to-air missiles in a relatively timely manner, and the F-16 is the only show in town in the Air Force for that weapon currently. That's how we ended up supporting this mission. And then a lot of the missions in Rough Rider was centered around having HARM that could respond and proactively target surface-to-air missiles.
There's not one jet that can do it all. Every jet has different strengths and weaknesses and brings something different to the fight. Leveraging each of those capabilities is the difference between success and failure.
The F-35 is going to fight it, and then we're going to be there to shoot HARM at it, and they're going to drop bombs. So you have a lot of confidence, the capabilities of America and the team. I felt pretty good about what we were doing.
And I literally see a text from the DO saying, can you get here as soon as possible?
I wake up to a text from him saying, I need you to go wake these people up right now. So I'm like getting out of my pajamas, throwing on my flight suit, and then sprinting to the other rooms, like banging on doors, trying to wake people up. Because we're a go, it's happening.
I got woken up at 10 p.m. and I was told, pack a 72-hour bag, go to the ops squadron, and wait further words.
I wake up and we get a text, it's like, hey, you need to show up to the squadron. So, we show up to the squadron and commander's like, we're flying jets to a different location, right? And in preparation for that, we now lose out on a mission planning day. It's you have to pick your team. It's all right, who are the guys that we're gonna take for this?
This wasn't the first time that we had been called in for a mission planning. I mean, I think we had went through 3 NPCs at that point for things that didn't actually come to fruition. And so my initial reaction was what are we being called into now? Is this just gonna be another NPC that we don't really go anywhere with? It obviously turned out to be something that we did do. I can remember in our bunk beds across from each other, Cash and I being because not a lot of people knew about this going on. We're like, are we really gonna do this? And it's nah, there's no way we do this. And then as the week progresses, I think we might actually do this. But
gosh, are we gonna do this?
Whispering to each other.
5 days before strike was supposed to happen, we got pulled aside and told, but we were told we can't tell our people.
I think maybe people envision that you're doing mission planning in this really high-tech room. It's no, it's a broom closet with one single TV that we're all huddled around. The targets are changing, right? It's you show up and, one day they're all right, we're not striking all the nuke facilities, so it's well, that totally changes the game plan for that. The routes are changing all the time. So it's, it's all the things that you would have hooked a weapon school ride for, or hooked a red flag bull, where it's dude, we don't even have black line routing. We're at the approval meeting right now. And it's it's like, dude, we're trying our best to come up with the best game plan, but it's all the variables keep changing, for the timing, the targets, the routing. And then kind of the backdrop of this is you're also kind of like the Israelis are executing a full-on war against Iran, right? And like every night, they're striking targets in Iran. So, you're working with intel to be like, all right, what's along our route? What's our factors? And then, that's continuously changing for the intel team. So it's just a really challenging problem for everyone involved, where all the variables are continuously moving. You're almost having to like start from scratch every single meeting.
Fuel requirements, right? Like JP8 just doesn't magically happen there. Not only just getting the amount of fuel you need, but then how do you distribute it out to aircraft?
We had one fuel line that's about 3.2 miles long, and you can only push so much fuel through that line per day. So no matter how much fuel or how many drivers or extra personnel or trucks, they give me to support the mission, I can only get 600,000 gallons out there.
Afson had done a wonderful thing and leaned forward and sent us 11 210,000 gallon fuel bladders with aligners and all the equipment to operate it. So we had it already pre-positioned. Then we have to there's only a small handful of CE dirt boys that can move that around. They're also building bunkers, right, for the Patriot batteries.
That was going to take 21 days, and then my commander told me to tell them they got 3 days. So they built up the berms, and then we had Army, Marines, crew chiefs, pilots, everybody out there helping us pull the bladders, because my guys didn't come out to help out because we were just on the flight line the entire time because of all the aircraft that were out there.
So in the middle of the desert heat, 115 degrees, people in body armor hauling fuel lines from the distribution point to create another distribution point. In 2 weeks there, we pumped more gas than we pump in an entire year here at Shaw. And we fly quite a bit here at Shaw.
Nine hard broke R11s backed up, and we are not meeting our demand. One of my really awesome senior NCOs came up to me. He's like, "Hey, sir, I can make these, in my opinion, I can make these refuelers safe, but it's definitely not within the technical order. Do you want safe and enough fuel to get? But we might bust a seal, we might leak all over the ramp, we might have to tow that R11 into position with another tow vehicle. But do you want capability, or do you want a perfectly running vehicle?" And I said, I want something to take fuel from our bladders to the jet, and that's my requirement.
What was the most gas in one day you saw pumped?
548,000 gallons on the night of Midnight Hammer.
We thought we would take a couple losses out there, is kind of my mindset going into it. Is I didn't think from this particular mission that we were going to bring everyone home. But my mindset, again, when you look at the people we're flying with, like the F-22s, the F-35s, the B-2s, it's like, all right, like wherever you guys are going, like we're going to go with you. They know that if there's any surface air missiles that were going to be detected, there's going to be F-16s that are going to be able to provide harm. And I knew that those F-35s were going to be there, and they were going to use their awesome sensors to detect the SAMs faster than we could, and they were going to put bombs on it. You know, I knew that those F-22s were going to be out there for any sort of like air-to-air that launched, and they were going to take care of that problem. So it was like this combined effort that is kind of like forged in like very personal relationships that we have with all the pilots, that, you know, we're going to go together and we're going to do our best to bring everyone home.
Then Saturday morning, we started to get word that some B-2s were on the move from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, 7 of them, and they were headed west, we were told by officials here, presumably to go to Guam in order to sort of ratchet up the pressure or to be closer to Iran. Turns out that was a total decoy. So we weren't tracing the B-2s themselves, but support aircraft, refuelers, etc. At the same time, another 7 were headed east, and those were the mission B-2s. So while the media and the world was paying attention to those 7 that were headed west, these other 7 B-2 bombers were headed east. That in itself was the first head fake.
Looked on CNN and it was like, B-2s have taken off, and I was like, I guess we're gonna do this today, you know, because it just takes such a long transit for those guys.
I think there were a couple different moments of thought. The first one is obviously leaving the room for the night and waking up, leaving my room, thinking maybe that's the last time I'm going to see that room. So that was kind of a little bit terrifying. Like you think about it, you're like, wow, this legitimately could be the last time I see this room. I don't know.
The 20th was my 10-year anniversary. And so I was like, I had thought about what I was going to get my wife, and I was like, okay, actually probably, like, I don't know how this is going to go. I should probably make sure that this is taken care of prior to this, like getting in the shit, for lack of better words. And thankfully some of it had been taken care of, but I just passed the like last details to my mom to make sure that my wife got her anniversary present for her 10-year.
Yeah, I wrote a letter to my spouse, just in case, making sure all the things that I would want her to know and have available to her that she would have. So
I called my girlfriend, now wife, just like, she's an intel officer, she's tracking a lot of this stuff, and I was just like, hey, we're gonna go do something. You're probably gonna see it, like something about it on the news. I can't tell you what it is, I can't tell you where we are, but I will call you when I land. And like some of the boys, like even myself, like I get kind of emotional now just thinking about it. You know, we always have to realize like that the reality of the situation is we might not come back, especially with something like Midnight Hammer.
I packed my bag. I remember calling my wife, and I told her, I'm like, hey, I'm going somewhere. I don't know where I'm going. I can't tell you where I'm going even if I knew, but just keep an eye on the news. I remember her crying, but I was like, I'll call you as soon as we land. As soon as we land, I'll let you know that I'm safe and that I'm okay.
I would say I had like a 60% confidence, and that was higher than Rough Rider. And that was the best I was gonna get of knowing we're gonna go fly in a threat environment that is unpredictable.
Luckily, my wife had sent me a message. She's like, you guys are well trained. So go do what you're gonna do and we'll be fine.
Part of the package proceeded to the west and into the Pacific as a decoy, a deception effort known only to an extremely small number of planners and key leaders here in Washington and in Tampa. The main strike package, comprised of 7 B-2 Spirit bombers, each with 2 crew members, proceeded quietly to the east with minimal communications. Throughout the 18-hour flight into the target area, the aircraft completed multiple in-flight refuelings. Once over land, the B-2s linked up with escort and support aircraft in a complex, tightly timed maneuver requiring exact synchronization across multiple platforms in a narrow piece of airspace, all done with minimal communications.
There was a lot of people who wouldn't normally be at the step desk, like there to send us off. And I think partially just in case, you know, we didn't come back, that it was like they saw us off, which was a little, it definitely deepened the mood a little bit rather than lightened the mood.
I don't know if you guys did this, like we had step music. So like you play music to, guys get amped up as they go out the door, or just kind of set the tone or just have fun. Ghost, he comes in hot under the collar, mission materials everywhere, like trying to get stuff together, and like they're like, Ghost, request for step music. He's like, yes, whatever you listen to get amped up for your middle school basketball game, like that's what I want to listen to tonight.
But yeah, that evening it really struck a chord with me, and I realized like, holy cow, like something is going to happen, and I'm not even sure if all of my aircraft are going to come back or not.
Before they launched out, every time I would always be like, all right, I'll see you back here whenever that mission's done, and I can't wait to hear what you got to experience while you were flying. It was probably more serious than I've seen into my prior deployments, because usually like they'll come out and they're joking and laughing and having a good time, but for the most part these guys were very like straightforward with like, let's get to the point, we got something we got to do.